You hear it all the time, right? The constant debate about the US-China trade war. You've got Americans saying they're winning, the Chinese saying they're winning, and economists all over the place arguing with each other. It's just endless noise in the headlines. But here's the problem with all of it. We're all stuck asking this one simple question. It seems like the most obvious place to start. Who's winning? Who's losing? Well, what if I told you that in this entire massive global economic showdown? That's completely the wrong question to be asking. Seriously. Thinking about this as some kind of simple contest with a winner and a loser, it completely misses the point. And it hides a much, much more complicated reality. Okay, let's reframe this whole thing. The real question, the one we should be asking, is this. Can either side actually afford what victory would cost them? Because when you really look at the price tag for winning for both the US and China, the answer is, well, it's pretty unsettling. And here's the twist. There's a third player in this game that almost nobody is talking about, one that's set up to win no matter what happens between these two giants. So to really get what's at stake here, we first need to understand what this trade war actually looks like, because this is not just some small disagreement over policy. The United States has slapped tariffs of up to a mind-blowing 145% on some Chinese goods. Now, a number that high doesn't just make things a little more expensive, it fundamentally breaks the entire economic relationship. Let me show you what I mean. Let's just make this super simple. Imagine a product that used to cost $100 to import from China. Well, with the tariff, it now costs $245 before it even lands in a store. You see, at these kinds of levels, trade doesn't just slow down. It basically stops. This is what you hear experts talking about when they say economic decoupling. It's a deliberate, almost forceful separation of the world's two biggest economies that have been woven together for decades. And both sides are finding out just how painful that separation can be. So what does this decoupling actually cost? Let's start with America. That tariff wall, it was built really high, really fast. But that kind of strategy, well, it comes with some serious hidden costs. The hard reality is that the United States is deeply, and I mean deeply, dependent on China for some absolutely critical goods. And we're not just talking about little trinkets and toys here. We're talking about things we all use every single day. And in some cases, things we literally can't live without. Just think about this for a second. 80% of our antibiotics, 70% of our consumer electronics, and pretty much all of the rare earth minerals you need for everything from your smartphone to an electric car to advanced military hardware. And here's the kicker. The United States built this giant tariff wall before it secured a way to make or get the stuff from somewhere else. And this leads to a very predictable and very immediate consequence. See, when you can't just easily get these goods elsewhere, you don't have a choice. You just have to pay the higher price. And that means American consumers and American businesses are footing the bill, which directly fuels inflation right here at home. Okay, so if the vulnerability for America is all about supply chains and inflation, for China, the problem is much, much deeper. It's structural. 16 million. That's the number. That's the estimated number of factory jobs in China that are tied directly to you, to me, to American consumers buying their stuff. When tariffs shoot up to 145%, American companies don't just pay more. They start looking for somewhere else to build things. And every single one of those 16 million jobs is suddenly at risk. And for China, this is happening at the absolute worst possible moment. The country is already wrestling with a giant crisis in its property market. You've got youth unemployment soaring over 20%, and its actual working age population is shrinking for the first time. China desperately needed its export machine to keep chugging along to paper over these cracks. The trade war basically took a sledgehammer to it. So here's how it shakes out when you put them side by side. For the US, the big risk is economic, inflation, and major disruption to the things we buy. For China, the risk is social, the terrifying prospect of mass unemployment and the kind of instability that can follow. They're two very different problems, but both are incredibly dangerous. Okay, so remember that third player I mentioned way back at the beginning? The one that's quietly winning while everyone is distracted? Well, it's time to talk about them. Because all that trade between the US and China, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It reroutes, it finds a new home. And American companies that just can't afford to manufacture in China anymore are moving their entire supply chains to countries like Vietnam, Mexico, India, and others. These nations are the clear, undisputed winners of this conflict. And the numbers are just staggering. I mean, just look at Vietnam. Its exports to the United States have exploded by over 40% since these tariffs kicked in. For these countries, this trade war isn't a crisis. It's the single greatest economic opportunity they've seen in a generation. And to really put a fine point on the shift, check this out. For the first time in decades, Mexico is now the #1 trading partner of the United States. It has officially overtaken China. We are watching a historic reshuffling of global trade happen in real time. All right, let's zoom out one last time, because we need to see the really big picture here. All the headlines about tariffs on steel or soybeans, they're actually distracting us from the real fight. The real war isn't about t-shirts or electronics. It's about semiconductors. It's about artificial intelligence. It's a high-stakes battle for who will control the core technologies that are going to run the entire 21st century. You can see the two playbooks laid out right here. The US is essentially playing defense, trying to block China from getting the most advanced computer chips to slow down its AI development. And China? China is playing all-out offense, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into a moonshot effort to build its own advanced chip industry from the ground up. This isn't just a trade dispute anymore, it's a race for the future itself. So ultimately, what we are all witnessing is that these massive economic conflicts are never just about two countries slugging it out. There are stories about how the entire global order reorganizes itself. As the old ties between the US and China start to fray, you see new powers rising to fill the void. New alliances are formed, and the entire map of global influence gets redrawn right before our eyes. And that brings us right back to where we started, but with a totally new way of looking at it. The question was never who wins this specific fight. The real question is who is best positioned to thrive in the new world that's being created by this fight? Who has the vision, the allies, and the resilience to win the era that comes next? That is the only question that really matters.